welcome to Season 1, Episode 20, PuckHeads Insider Report. My name is Ed Combs. I am here in South Florida. My co-host, Peter South, is in Windsor, Ontario. Today's show is brought to you by the Florida Grow House. Have you ever thought about your own garden, your own greenhouse? Here's your chance. Have your own healthy, organic, fresh, delicious fruits and vegetables. It's great, fun, and money-saving food in your own backyard. Check them out at floridagrowhouse.com or give them a call at 772-249-2095. Let them know you heard this on PuckHeads Insider Report. Get yourself a $750 discount. Today, we got a great show lined up for you. One of the NHL's hottest teams, the Colorado Avalanche. Their hottest prospects, buying or selling at the deadline. What does Joe Sakic have up his sleeve for the playoffs? NCAA Conference Championship, upcoming regional, and the Frozen Four in Pittsburgh. And a great I bet you didn't know question for all you Avs fans. So, Peter, let's jump right in. How are things in the Great White North? I hear the weather's been giving you a break lately. Sun's been peeking its head out and temps warming up for you?
Yeah, the sun is looking positive. We had a high of 70 degrees today. People are out getting by the ocean and enjoying the beautiful weather here.
Getting by the ocean in winter? That's called the Detroit River there, brother. Not the ocean.
Don't tell everybody.
Yeah. Alrighty then. So you got 70 degrees today.
Yep.
Oh man, that's awesome. We hit a whopping high, I think, of 72. It's friggin' 55 degrees this morning. I had to wear a coat to work.
Wow, must have caught frostbite.
I'm telling you. As of this recording, we are going to jump right in. Colorado is 19-8-2, hottest team in the league. In their past 10 games, they've gone 8-1-1, Peter. 2-game sweep of then red-hot Minnesota Wild. They beat them 5-1 and 6-0. They have a 2-game set in Arizona at the beginning of the week, then face division-leading Las Vegas in a 2-game set Thursday and Saturday. That's going to be a game to watch, Colorado and Las Vegas.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic to watch. When they played the outdoor games as tough as they were to play, it was exciting, fun hockey to watch as both those teams love to go up and down the ice.
I still think St. Louis has a shot at coming out of there, but I'm going to tell you what, Las Vegas and Colorado, they're going to make everybody and their brothers work for this. They're not playing around. They're winning. They're winning hockey games.
Oh, there's no doubt they're winning hockey games, but I guess with the St. Louis and Minnesotas are hoping that they end up beating each other out and or beating each other up, and then either St. Louis or Minnesota can have an upset in the first round of the playoffs against these guys, and that's what they're all betting on.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. On the ice, they have a fantastic mix of skill and grit. Two-way forwards, the likes of Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, Andre Burakovsky, Nazem Kadri from Toronto, Jonas Donskoy, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. Their defense is young and talented, which to me is an understatement. But as a group, they will be tested in the playoffs because of the first two divisional series. They're probably going to be facing St. Louis and then Vegas. Two players who are 22 and 19 respectively. Two players on their blue line who will be hockey household names to come are going to be Cale Makar and Bowen Bryman, 22 and 19 respectively. Where do you see these guys fitting in?
Oh, they're unbelievable talents. I mean, that is one thing the Avalanche have is a lot of young, upcoming, fantastic players who are going to be stars in this league. I mean, you got just this past year, they took Justin Barron, another defenseman, more of a stay-at-home type guy, but he's going to definitely make an impact on that team. Also, one of the players who's not even on the roster right now, first-round pick from 2019, Alex Newhook, a forward. I mean, they're loaded with young players.
Not only are they loaded, we're going to go over more of their prospects besides who you just talked about. Justin Barron, definitely a stay-at-home guy. But they've got some up-and-coming names. They're loaded for bear, literally loaded for bear. Biggest on-ice issue for the Avs is going to be between the pipes, where Philip Grubauer is having a career year. He is second in the league with 18 wins, has the second best save percentage in the league, 9.29. Vasilevsky leads the way with a 20 wins and 9.33 save percentage. The problem is, if Grubauer starts to falter, they're going to be forced to rely on Jonas Johansson, who they just got from Buffalo over the weekend. Their normal backup, Pavel Francouz, has been placed on long-term IR, and there is a lot of speculation that he won't be able to return this season at all. So this is the main reason that this trade happened?
Oh, yeah, they have trouble between the pipes. Grubauer, like you said, there is having a career year, and he's never had the likes of this. And I'm sure Joe Sakic is going, he wants to make sure he keeps it up, but can he keep it up? And he needs some insurance behind, between the pipes and behind Grubauer to make sure that they can do it. Jonas Johansson is definitely unproven, but he cost him a 6th-round pick, so it wasn't a big expense. But they are still, I'm sure, looking for a proven backup to come in behind Grubauer if he does falter, especially heading towards the playoffs.
I know they're praying that Grubauer does not go down. I know they are, but they had to make this trade. They send over a 6th-round pick for Jonas Johansson. Is he going to be able to pull the weight, or was he an issue in Buffalo, or when he goes to a team like Colorado, is he going to be able to make sure he's between the pipes and he's keeping the puck out of the net?
Ed, I saw him play a few times with Buffalo, and he really didn't look that bad. His numbers obviously, make it look that he was not that great, but Buffalo's defense is very, very porous, as we know. They give up a lot of second and third chance opportunities in high scoring areas. So that's going to kill any goaltender's numbers. I think Joe Sakic and the staff feel that this kid has a possibility. Buffalo looking to get as many draft picks as they can, and figured between Carter Hutton and, like we talked about in our last episode too, they got that Pekka Luukkonen. And, they have some great goalies coming up. So, and they also signed a former ECHL goaltender in Cincinnati and Fort Wayne, and Michael Hauser, who will end up in Rochester, and another backup. So they're fairly deep in goaltending in Buffalo, so they can afford to let him go to get another draft pick. I thought they could have probably got higher than a 6th round. But Johansson will have an opportunity. He'll play a handful of games going down the stretch. But Grubauer has also been one of those goalies who's had injuries throughout the years too, little nagging injuries that have cost him games. And so it'll be interesting to see how he holds up. Like I said, he could be that's a big question mark for the Avs this year for sure.
Grubauer.
Yeah.
Well, he's got all their wins. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure. He's been the guy, and I mean, when he's been in there, he's had a great year. He's been special for sure, and it's nice to see he's coming into his own. Washington thought he was going to be a guy, and then when he went to Colorado, they thought he was going to be a guy, and now he finally seems to be the guy. So.
Well, as we were talking about in the open, and what does Joe Sakic got up his sleeve for the Avs for the playoffs? The pressure is going to start to mount for the GM, Joe Sakic. Managing a roster, he's already up against the hilt with the salary cap. He has $8 million tied up in 2 players who are on long-term IR. Defenseman Eric Johnson and who we talked about earlier, Pavel Francouz. Now, I'm sure he's going to be a buyer between now and the trade deadline in April, but he needs to move dollars for dollars. And you and I were talking about this. Dollars for dollars to help the team this year is one thing. But if you've got a cohesive locker room and you're trying to get that one guy and you're already up against the cap, so you're not trading draft picks. You got to trade player for player, and you got to trade dollar for dollar. And you got a guy that the other team wants for you to get the guy you want, and it could screw up your whole locker room, destroy your season. How careful does he got to be not to make a trade just for trade's sake?
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough situation. You got to rely on a lot of sources to make sure what you're bringing in isn't going to disrupt the chemistry of what you have. The Avs, they're pretty tight. It's like all NHL teams. They're a tight-knit group inside the locker room. And, I mean, first off, it'll be the deletion of one player who could be essential. I mean, he may not even be a big point guy on the team, but he could be the cohesiveness, the guy who keeps them all glued together inside the room. And then you bring in a guy who's all about himself or something like that, and or he's on the last year of his contract and free agency's pending, and he's all about numbers and everything like that. It could totally disrupt what they're trying to do.
Without question, that is something they can afford to do. The salary cap, as we've talked about before on previous shows, isn't going anywhere. $82.5 million for next year, same as it is this year, and it may even go down. There's rumors it could drop the following year. There's no fans. There's no money. Some of them, Dallas is wide open. Florida's allowing fans. Detroit's now up to, I think, 800 or 850 fans. I don't know what's allowed in Canada yet. Are
Zero.
Any fans? 0 fans at every game, no matter where it is.
0. Yep.
So, depending on where you are, is San Jose playing in San Jose yet? Or are they still in Arizona? So they're back in San Jose. Yeah. So he's got a lot to worry about, especially when you've got high dollar players on long-term IR. Are they going to come back this season, next season? Let's go back to goaltending. Grubauer becomes a UFA after this season, and at the rate he's playing, that boy's going to want to raise. You can guarantee he's going to want a big increase. $3.3 million he's getting now. What's he going to want come signing day? That's a huge thing for him. On defense, Cale Makar, he's going to be looking for a major pay increase as he becomes a restricted free agent. He's making $880,000. He will definitely want to be in the $4 to $6 million range. Now, I have a question for you on this. When you're an RFA, you can negotiate your contract to be renewed that big at that time without being a UFA?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the agents are trying to do it so that their contract they sign, though, leads them right into the UFA status, so that they're only doing a 2-3 year bridge contract, and then they go right into unrestricted free agency type money. So it's going to be very tricky next year for Joe Sakic. There's no doubt about that.
I don't want to get too deep into this because we're going to be talking about the prospects and who's coming up and who's in the pipeline, who's doing what, where. Another RFA on the blue line is Connor Timmins. He's going to want a fairly big increase. Now, again, I don't want to go too much into this. He's got 19 NHL games, 0 points, -3. He's a defenseman. Last season in AHL, 40 games, 3 goals, 24 assists, 27 points. 2021, 17 games, 6 penalty minutes, -5, 0 points. You think he's going to warrant a big raise?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's going to be in the $2-3 million category for sure. And right now, any Avalanche player who wants that kind of money is just making it tougher and tougher as they go against the cap, because as you're going to allude to, the big three of Landeskog, McKinnon, and Ranta. And Ranta's already signed, but Landeskog is up for contract, and McKinnon, you can't leave him behind. They're going to want money too. So it's a tough situation.
How far is Nazem Kadri?
Kadri's good till the end of next year. He's making just under $5 million at 4.9. So that's something they're going to look at in the future as well.
He signed through 22, 23 or 21, 22.
Yep, 21, 22.
Okay, so will Colorado let him go for the expansion draft? Is he tradable? Is he a big part or big piece of that puzzle? Because when we're talking about signing big contracts and these guys all wanting big raises, who's going to be the first one let go? Who's the low man on the totem pole for the big dollars, I guess I'm trying to ask.
Well, I think they have like 4 or 5 guys who are expendable, as they may look at it. Also for the draft, but also, this year to try to move players and try to increase their depth in goal. And that's, like we're saying, Nazem Kadri, but you also Brandon Saad. He's on a 1-year deal at $5 million. Andrei Burakovsky, He signed to the end of 21-22. Jonas Donskoy, he's always shows up to every game, works hard, great third line type player. They could part with him, and JT Compher is another one, along with Matt Calvert. Those are guys who they could move and in that dollar for dollar scenario, get them out and try to bring in some players. And, Ed, in our research, one of the players, I failed to talk to you about, but I think could be in their plans, and I saw him play quite a bit this year for the University of Minnesota, is Sampo Ranta. Now, this is a big kid. He's 6'3", played at the University of Minnesota, and he is definitely NHL ready. And they be looking at him once the NCAAs are done to bring him in right away and slot him in a third-line winger position because the kid can score. He's big, he's strong, he's good on the boards. And he could be a big answer to what they're trying to do in moving a player and getting back some support in goaltending.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about, Peter. I was watching the tournament for the college. Yeah. So the Big Ten tournament. I kept listening to the announcers over and over. They destroyed Ohio State. They're beating Minnesota 2-0. At least 3 times in the third period, the announcers are talking about how Michigan goaltender Strauss-Mann has not allowed a playoff goal since 2019. And I'm going, you guys got to shut up, man. Please stop talking. Please stop talking. 2-1. I'm like, oh, no. He scores again. 2-2. Minnesota wins it in overtime. I was furious with him. Obviously, it's superstition, but nonetheless, it was driving me nuts. Before we get too much further, Peter, because we still got more Avs stuff to talk about, especially the aforementioned Mikko Rantanen and some other guys. Nathan MacKinnon may be looking for more money. But let's do real quick. We have a great Avs question for Avs fans. Who is the first goaltender to play in the very first ever game the Colorado Avalanche played? Is it A, Stefan Fiset, B, Jocelyn Thibault, C, Patrick Waugh, D, none of the above? Colorado Avalanche, first ever hockey game in the 95-96 season. Who was in net? A, Stefan Fiset, B, Jocelyn Thibault, C, Patrick Waugh, D, none of the above. Colorado fans, stick around. We're going to get you the answer in just a few minutes. As we were talking, Peter, Landeskog is a key component to get signed, and it's to get signed now. They would also be remiss not to mention that if Landeskog moves into salary range as Mikko Rantanen, who's getting $9.25 million, does Sakic look after Nathan MacKinnon, who's arguably the straw that stirs the drink? Is he the on and off ice leader that makes that team work the way it's supposed to?
I really believe he is. I mean, Nathan MacKinnon does it all for them. He's a physical force. He has unbelievable skill. He finishes. He puts the puck in the net. He's a great two-way player. He's the guy. And on that beautiful line they have of Rantanen, MacKinnon, and Landeskog, he's the guy. He makes them work. He makes them go. And he's signed until the end of the 22-23 season at 6.3. So if you end up giving Landeskog Rantanen money, which is around 9.2, and you have MacKinnon at 6.3, I think, you're
going to tear that contract up for $9 to $10 million. You're going to have to.
Yeah, they should, or else MacKinnon's going to say, well, I'm not appreciated here. And at the end of 22-23, he's going to start looking elsewhere. And if Colorado wants to have long-term sustainability, I think that's something they really need to look at. And I'm sure they are. Joe Sakic's a smart guy. I think he gets it. He knows who's bringing the fans in and giving him his paycheck. So I think that's something they're going to do. But like I said, they're up so far against the cap. They're going to have to do that. And they're going to have to rely on a lot of these young kids coming in, like we just talked about, Sampo Ranta, and they got so many good young kids coming in with their draft picks they've made. Some of these guys like Brandon Saad, Nazem Kadri, Jonas Donskoy are going to have to be moved out, I think, is what's going to happen.
Do you think he sits down with McKinnon and talks to him? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but Steve Yzerman, Joe Sakic, back in their playing days, when it was time to win now, Yzerman took less money, Sakic took less money. They all were ready to say, you know what? Whatever's going to make this team win now. We want cups now. Do you think he sits down with him, not to say take less money, but to say, yes, I redid his contract. Yes, it's for this much money. You will get your payday. Please give me a minute. Give me a year. Give me a season. I will make it right for you. And explain to him where they are up against the cap, or are the players today, I don't give a crap. I want my money now.
I think McKinnon is well aware, just like every player is, where they are against the cap. But you know what? Even if you pay McKinnon $9 million right now, that's taking a discount. He's worth more than that. You look at Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel and John Tavares. I mean,
Jack Eichel is so overpaid, it's not funny.
Well, that's that's a whole nother story, as we touched on.
I know.
But
yes, it is.
But
I digress.
When you have guys in the $10 to $11 million range, and you look at McKinnon, who's basically the heart and soul of that Colorado team, basically the Joe Sakic of the 2020s, and you're telling them, yeah, we're going to give you $9 million to keep you up with your line mates. That's taking the hometown discount right there. And
does he take it?
I think he will. I could see, like I said, he's got 2 years left after this season. I could see them, if they offered him $10 million and, added 2 more years to it, I could see him doing it. I mean, he's only hard to believe. He's been around for a while. Nathan McKinnon is only 25 years old right now, and he's got a lot of hockey left in him.
Where does Landeskog fall? How old is he now? 27,
24. Or Landeskog, sorry. No, Rantanen's 24, Landeskog's 28.
Yeah, I thought he was older. So
yeah, 28.
So yeah, they still got kids in their 20s, and they're producing.
Oh, magical numbers. I mean, they are one of the most exciting lines in hockey. You know what? I'd love to watch, and I'm not even an Avs fan or a Bruins fan. I would love to see a final where you have McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog going up against Marchand, Bergeron, and
that would be a series.
Boston,
That would be a 7-game. Yeah, that would be a 7-game knockdown drag out.
Would that be a treat to watch for a hockey fan, though?
Well, back in the day, Colorado's half of one of the biggest rivalries in all of hockey for the better part of a decade. And any game you watched in the playoffs between Colorado and Detroit, it was always the same thing. Whoever comes out of the West, Colorado or Detroit, that's your Stanley Cup champion. Don't matter who's coming out of the East. And it was 1996, 1997, 1998. It was Colorado, Detroit, Colorado, Detroit, Colorado, Detroit, all the way into the 2000s.
Yep.
All right, before we get off into...
Well, first off, Ed, I want to apologize to any Bruins fans listening because I did forget Pasternak's name there for a second. But yeah, that would be a treat. That would be a treat to watch those two lines go head to head against each other. There's no... Absolutely. And unfortunately, unless the Stanley Cup Finals happen with those two teams, we won't see it this year at all in the regular season.
What do you mean?
Well, they're in different divisions.
Oh, yeah, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I thought you meant there would be no Stanley Cup. But yes, if Colorado and Boston do not play in the playoffs, they are in the Stanley Cup Finals. They won't play each other. Not this season, anyway. All right, before we start jumping into the prospects that they have and jumping into the NCAA and the Frozen Four, let's get an answer to our I Bet You Didn't Know. Who was the goaltender in the first ever Colorado Avalanche game history? Stefan Facette, Jocelyn Thibault, Patrick Waugh, or none of the above? Peter, who is our goalie in game one?
Well, I know David from Ann Arbor, who's a huge Colorado fan and is listening to this podcast. He also knows the answer, and it's Stefan Facette.
Yes, it is. A lot of folks may think it is Patrick Waugh, but Patrick Waugh did not get traded to Colorado till December 1995. And, you got to feel bad for Quebec Nordique fans. I mean, they're in Quebec all those years. They moved to Colorado in the 95-96 season and win a cup the first year there. All those years, Quebec Nordique fans have a team and they don't win anything. They moved to Colorado and win a championship.
Well, I've always been a person who's despised the Montreal Canadiens personally. Everybody has a team there. Hey, you don't like the Bruins too much, but
Colorado Avalanche
so by default, I was a Quebec Nordique fan. Love watching them play, especially against Montreal, and I love watching Joe Sakic and Owen Nolan and a lot of these great guys they had. And when they got moved to Colorado, I cheered for them then until that one donkey named Claude Lemieux came on the scene for them.
Please don't get me going.
Well, that ignited the rivalry. So
yes, it did. It did.
That's the one thing. But and if you happen to be a client of Claude Lemieux's, I pity you, poor fool. But anyway, let's move on, Ed.
Let's jump into some prospects. And like you were mentioning earlier, Peter, their cupboards are far from bare. I mean, these guys are loaded for bear. They've got, just to name a few prospects we're going to talk about, Justin Onanen. He's a Finnish 21-year-old goaltender. He's on loan to Finland. Not having the greatest year. He's 7-7-7 record with a .245 goals against average, .883 save percentage. But on average over his career, he is just over 90%. He's got a future in the NHL. I didn't look too deep into this kid's stats to know if about the team he's playing for and the defense in front of him. Are they helping him? Are they allowing? But he is one of their elite prospects for Colorado. Coming up, they got a Czech, right-wing Czech, Martin Kotz. He's played 10 NHL games, 9 during the 1920 season and 1 this season. He's played for Dynamo, Modo, and the Eagles, and the Avs. That's all this season. The boy has done a ton of travel. This year, 2 goals and an assist with Colorado, and a goal, an assist, 2 points with the Eagles.
Well, I'll tell you, Ed, though, I'll give Colorado credit, and I don't like to give them a lot of credit, but because they did sign Claude Lemieux. But getting their AHL team in the Loveland, Colorado, the Colorado Eagles, smart move, basically down the road from them, and another one of those organizations like we've talked about a few times during the podcast that own their own AHL team, and there's no better way to develop your own players than to own your own AHL team.
Absolutely. And have them close to home. It's a huge deal now. A lot of the NHL teams are moving their teams closer to home so that the players don't got far to go from AHL to NHL as far as travel. Another big guy they've got going is Alex Bocage. He's to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, 3 goals, 5 assists. This season, he's not played hardly any games. His best season, 39 goals, 40 goals respectively. Right winger, his most points, 79 and 70 points respectively. He is not far from the Eagles, and he's not far from the Avs. These are guys that are going to make jumps. A kid we talked about just a little bit ago, Connor Timmins. 19 games in the NHL. He's got no points. He's a -3 last season. In 40 AHL games, 3 goals, 24 assists, 27 points, 17 games, 6 penalty minutes, 0 points, -5 this season. He is a kid who is going to anchor that defense there and help them tremendously. Have you seen him play this year?
Yeah, he's an Adam Foote kind of player. Gritty, right. Get your points, and is not afraid to get his nose right into the action.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent comparison. Shane Bauer, 28th overall pick from the Ottawa Senators 2017. He's a center, 66 AHL games, all with the Colorado Eagles. 4 goals, 4 points for this season. 10 goals, 17 assists, 27 points last season. But the kid he's going to be I don't want to say a star in the league, but he's not far from making that leap.
He'll be a solid player for sure. Yeah, he'll definitely be a solid player and add to the Avs depth for sure. He's going to be a good quality depth player. One of the guys we talked about earlier was Justin Barron on defense. I mean, that kid was a first-round draft pick this past year in 2020, and I've seen him play, and he's another solid defenseman, right-hand D, which are always a precious commodity. And for whatever reason, they just are right-hand D who can play. And, he's going to be great. Not trying to take away from you, Ed, but, Jean-Luc Foudy, that's a kid who I've watched play in Windsor quite a bit. Unbelievable speed, creativity. Not a huge kid, but he's going to definitely challenge for a position on that Avs team in the next couple of years to really, help ramp it up offensively for them.
It's going to help them, not like they need help on offense, but I want to jump back real quick to Justin Barron. We talked about him briefly. He is a big kid. He's a stay-at-home guy. He's a great first-pass guy. He clears the net well. How far away do you see before he steps in to either the Colorado Eagles in the AHL or straight into the Avs in the NHL?
I think he'll go straight to the Avs. He's with the Canadian World Junior team. I saw him last year in the pre-tournaments in Plymouth. He's just solid. He's a big kid, strong kid. He's going to be definitely NHL ready, and he'll jump right in to be what'll be one of the youngest yet strongest and most dominant defense in the NHL.
Do you see Colorado coming out of the West, or is Vegas going to be too much of a headache for them? Where does St. Louis come into this? Where does Minnesota come into this? Vegas and Colorado control that whole conference right now. They're the ones that are on top of it. They're the ones who are winning consistently. So who do you see coming out of there better without having to destroy each other to do it?
Well, I'm still going to stick with my preseason pick of St. Louis. So I think how the standings are now is how they're going to end up. You're going to see Vegas first, Colorado second, and St. Louis third, Minnesota fourth. In the first round, I see Vegas taking Minnesota probably in about 5 games. And I see St. Louis, putting on their playoff hats, those good worker minor type hats and going to work and shutting down the big line and taking the Avs in 6 or 7. So I think it's going to be a first year.
It's a 7-game. Well, I 7-game series all day.
I
still think St. Louis does it, but yeah. Before we break off into the NCAA, your Flyers, who you to come out of the East, are not looking. What happened to Philadelphia, man? If somebody fell off a horse.
Well, yeah. I mean, they decided to mail in that game last week against the Rangers when they got pummeled 9-0. And
7 second period goals or 6 second.
Well, Mika Zibanejad had 6 points himself, tied an NHL record in the second period. Natural hat trick, 3 goals, 3 assists. I like that guy. No, that kid can play, man.
He is. He's an awesome hockey player.
I loved him in Ottawa, and I was shocked that they gave him up, and the Rangers are enjoying him, and which is good. But the Flyers are struggling. There's no doubt they're struggling. I'm not necessarily a Flyers fan. I just looked at the roster and I thought they had put it together this year. That's a team. Carter Hart's their number 1 goalie as a young kid. And they got Brian Elliott as a backup, and they started Elliott in that game against the Rangers and looked like a Swiss cheese goalie there with more holes than, like I said, as
piece of Swiss cheese. I still think there was a mistake there. He was a great fit. He was a grind to the hilt. Didn't care what it took. Got the job done. He scored the dirty goals in front of the net, and they let him go, and Toronto snatched him up. Wayne Simmons. That was a mistake. Letting him go was a mistake for Philadelphia, I think. I think he was a great fit there. He was.
What goes back to what we're saying about the Avs. About the Avs, about character. Sometimes it's you think, I'm only giving up 3, 4 goals or 7 goals or 12 goals on a season.
Way more than points.
But it's way more than points with character. That, like I said, it's the glue. You have to be in a room, a high-level room, to understand what character players mean to a team and how a team responds when they lose that player. And I think you're right. I think Philadelphia is one of those teams that's losing because he lost that character. And I think now that he's healthy again, I think you're going to see a resurgence in Toronto because Simmons is healthy again and back in the roster.
Well, we'll see what happens. Definitely. I'm excited for the playoffs, especially the Western Conference. The East is going to be, I think it's going to be a three-way, maybe four. I still think it's more of a three-way between the Lightning, the Panthers, and the Bruins. I think you're going to throw Dallas in there, and I think they could still do some damage. They got a little bit angered losing to Detroit to come back and shut them out in the next game 3-0. So they still hold what, 10 games in hand, 7 games, something like that.
They missed a lot of games.
Yeah, they did. All right, let's take off from the NHL here real quick. I want to jump into this. This is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, NCAA men's ice hockey championship with these teams. And everybody that's coming in here has something to prove. There's a ton of prospects. There is major league first-round draft pick choices coming out of here. And I want to run through these games and get your thoughts and picks, starting with North Dakota, 21-5-1, is playing America International, 15-3-0. Who do you see coming out on top of this? For me, it's North Dakota, but I haven't seen a lot of American International.
Well, North Dakota is the cream of the crop. They're the consensus number one overall pick in the polls, and they've proven it. They can play, and they are the team to beat. There's no doubt about that.
Minnesota Duluth coming in at 14-10-2. Michigan 15-10-1. This is going to be knockdown drag out. I'm going to take Michigan to come back angry and after losing to Minnesota. And who you see coming on top here?
Well, I agree with you. I think Michigan's going to come out on top. They got a wealth of talent. They, as you said, they have the 3 prospects who are looking to be first-round draft picks. 3 of them ranked in the top 10 already.
Yep. One of them they're saying is a number 1 overall pick in defense.
Yep, and they're one of the best that's ever been seen in NCAA hockey. And they're just so much fun to watch with the skill level. And Strauss-Mann, he's an undrafted junior goaltender who will be
signed.
He's definitely going to be signed before the end of his career. So I look for Michigan to win that game, but unfortunately, I don't see them getting by North Dakota. And but that'll definitely be entertaining to watch. And the great thing is one thing we haven't touched on, and I'll do it right now. Big news story last week was ESPN getting the NHL rights back. And most of their staff have to learn what hockey is because going by, if you watch it, ESPN Sports Center, they have no clue what hockey is. They don't cover it or anything. But the fact that they're going to be covering this tournament pretty deep, especially ESPNU and ESPN2, they're going to be covering a lot of these games in this tournament, which is great news.
So with ESPN doing this, do you see them bringing back Gary Thorne and Bill Clement?
Oh, they'd be really smart if they did, because Gary Thorne was one of the best play-by-play guys ever. And Bill Clement, his knowledge of the game was excellent. He did a lot to teach when ESPN did have the rights. He did a lot to teach novice fans, a lot about the game, the way he explained it and broke it down. He was very good. So get those guys back.
I want to get into that. Yeah, it would be definitely. Let's get into that deeper on our next show, because a lot of hockey fans that I talked to, when ESPN did what they did, dumping the NHL, they're really not happy that NBC gave up the rights for the NHL. Now, I don't know what was paid or what was done, but that's going to be another show. I do want to delve into that deeper. Right now, let's jump into the next round. Wisconsin, 29-1. They're playing Bemidji State, 15-9-3. This is Wisconsin all day long.
Yeah, Wisconsin took it on the chin against Minnesota in the final, but they're going to bounce back. They got probably the most dynamic player in the NCAA in Cole Caulfield. He's a treat to watch. tune into that game just to watch that kid score goals. He's just a pure goal scoring machine. And he's kind of a cross between, for the old school guys, Mike Bossy, and for the newer guys, Alex DeBrincat. He kind of combines the scoring of Bossy and the size of DeBrincat, and you can tell when he scores because you usually hear the ring of the pipe first, and that's how accurate he is.
3 games I'm really interested in watching, and I will be DVRing all 3 of them. The first one was the Michigan-Minnesota Duluth game, and this next one, Lake Superior State, Massachusetts. I'm going to take Lake State in this, 1963. Massachusetts not far behind at 16-5-4. Who are you picking here?
Well, Lake Superior won their first championship in 25 years, and I had the fun of watching them play a couple of times this year, and they're a good team to watch. They're very deep and a solid team, and they've just been getting better and better and better as the seasons go along. So I'm definitely going to go Lake Superior on this one.
They've got so much talent up front. They're going to be hard on Massachusetts for sure. Minnesota, Omaha. Minnesota coming in 23-6-0. Omaha 14-10-1. Do you see an upset here, or does Minnesota walk all over them?
Yeah, I think Minnesota, I don't know if they walk all over them, but they're going to have a convincing 2-3 goal win for sure. And they're a deep team, and they proved that in the Big Ten tournament when they came back twice in the first 2 games after being down in the second period. They came back and won both games in overtime, and then in the championship game, totally dismantled Wisconsin. So, yeah, put your money on Minnesota in that game.
Minnesota State, Quinnipiac. I think this is going to be a much closer game than people are going to give it credit for. Minnesota State does come in with a 24-1 record. Quinnipiac is not far back, 17-7-4. This will be a very tight game.
Well, it will be, and for those who not really up on what's going on in the NCAA, Quinnipiac is there strictly because St. Lawrence bowed out. St. Lawrence actually was the conference winner, beating Quinnipiac, and what happened is the day after they won, the coach on St. Lawrence was tested positive for COVID, and I'm still shaking my head on this because he tested positive. They haven't said any players did. They said, we're not going to the tournament. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
is that the only reason Quinnipiac is in? That's the only reason they're in?
Only reason. Because
wow.
Yeah, they were the team that St. Lawrence beat, and it's a shame. I feel so bad for all those St. Lawrence players. And
who decided that? The team?
Well, I think it was the AD and the coach together, but there's got to be a lot more to the story, and something that I want us to keep following up on, because those 20-odd players, it's just got to be devastated, absolutely devastated, to have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go to win an NCAA championship, and because their coach tested positive, to not play. I mean, look at the New York Rangers last week, the game they dismantled Philadelphia. All their coaches were on the sidelines because of COVID protocols, and they still played and they won. I mean, St. Lawrence has got to be, those kids have just got to be devastated.
Yeah, I can imagine. Of the 3 games that I was telling you about, Peter, that I'm definitely DVRing, this is the third one. And this one is going to be, an exciting game. Boston College and Notre Dame. This is going to be some wide open hockey right here.
Oh, definitely. And Notre Dame was upset in the first game of the Big Ten tournament by Penn State, who is not in this tournament.
I noticed that.
And so that'll be interesting. But just for the people who love hockey trivia, we all know the name of the first woman who played goal in the NHL in an exhibition game. You know that, Ed?
Yeah, her brother won a Stanley Cup in New Jersey. And actually, you coached him in Flint, man, Orion.
That's right. Well, her son and Pascal's nephew is the goaltender for Notre Dame, St. Cyr.
No way.
Yes.
Her son?
Yes. And He's not a big kid. He's under 6 feet tall, but he's a terrific goaltender, and he's the senior for Notre Dame. So it should be fun to watch. And we know Boston College. I mean, they just have such a great, deep history. That's going to be an absolutely fun game to watch. And that's Saturday at 1:00. And that's going to be well worth watching. It's going to be great between the Fighting Irish and Boston College, which is just such a deep Catholic area. It's the Shamrocks will be flying everywhere. So it'll be a fun game to watch.
Absolutely. We have one more game before I do that. Is Pascal still in Michigan?
No. Pascal is actually in Quebec.
He went back home. Okay.
Yeah.
St. Cloud State, Boston University. Who do you see here? Boston University, 10-4-1. St. Cloud State, 17-10-0.
I think St. Cloud's gonna. The teams in Minnesota are pretty darn good, and St. Cloud has been near the top of the rankings all year, and so look for them to win this one fairly convincingly.
All right, real quick, so I can do this again. North Dakota is coming out on that one, and Michigan is coming out on that one. Wisconsin here. Lake State, Massachusetts. We're taking Lake State, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Minnesota and Omaha. That's a mini coming out there. Minnesota State, Quinnipiac. We're taking Minnesota State.
Yeah.
And we have Boston College, Notre Dame.
We never did pick the winner.
It's gonna be.
I'm still gonna take Notre Dame.
I think I'm going to agree with you. As much as I think Boston College, I really think Boston College is actually going to win this. But since you told me who was in that, I'm going to go with Notre Dame.
Sentimental favorite.
Absolutely. St. Cloud State, Boston University. That's a St. Cloud. And we were going to go over this again next week, see how we did, and continue on until it's all over with, and see what we can't bring about for our next show. You have any questions, send them off to us, puckheadsinsider@gmail.com. Check out our Facebook page, Puckheads Insider Report. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear what you think of the show, your favorite questions on your favorite teams. We'd love to talk about them. Peter, anything else you want to jump into before we say goodnight?
No, I think we touched on a lot of stuff. I mean, there's still a lot going on in the ECHL. There's a lot going on in the American Hockey League. We'll try to catch up with that next week. And you know what, Ed? It's still great to see hockey being played in this tough situation. I really, really wish the Ontario government would get off its ass and figure out something for the Ontario Hockey League. But
I was just going to ask you about how the signatures...
I actually spoke to 2 owners in the OHL this week, and neither of them are very confident at all of the puck dropping at all in the OHL this year.
Wow. Do any politicians have any control over this?
Well, the Minister of Sports, as we talked to, the lady I referred to as having her head up her ass does. And I think what's going to happen, Ontario is loosening its reins a little bit. The one person I talked to, he suggested what might happen is, just quickly go over that, is he thinks that she's going to say, yes, you can play, you can get a game plan together, get a game in or a few games in. I mean, the Western Hockey League is only going to play a 24-game season, but she'll say, yes, you can do that. And then I think right before Easter, Ontario's going to go back into a lockdown again. And she's going to say, well, sorry, I said you could do it, but, you know, the province in a lockdown, you can't play. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, we'll find out. We'll dig deeper into that for our OHL fans and see what's going on, if there's any news coming out of Ontario with Peter. Today's show has been brought to you by the Florida Grow House. Have you ever thought about your own garden, your own greenhouse? Here's your chance. Have your own healthy, organic, fresh, delicious fruits and vegetables. It's great fun. Money-saving food in your own backyard. Check them out, floridagrowhouse.com. Give them a call, 772-249-2095. Let them know you heard this on Puckhead's Insider Report. Get yourself a $750 discount. We do hope you have enjoyed the show. Please click like. Please click subscribe. My name is Ed Combs. I'm here in South Florida. My co-host, Peter South in Windsor, Ontario. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to talking hockey again with you next week.